FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Aaron Nesmith, I love it. I love what he's doing. I love the season he's having here. And I noticed three things, especially when he came back to Boston. Really put some muscle on that frame. Yeah. Like, he is just so much bigger, stronger. Listed at 215. I'd have to imagine he's closer to like 220, 225 with just how jacked he looks right now. So hitting his threes, 46% in fact, 55 from the field, 11, 3, and even an assist per game along with a steal per game. This is great. I mean, the biggest thing for him, and we talked about it over and over again in Boston, he's not playing. And he's a shooter. They need rhythm. They need reps. They need consistency. And he got none of that here in Boston. And so he ended up playing a more erratic style, almost, akin to O'Shea, just running around trying to do whatever he can, diving on the floor, crashing the boards, running into people, whatever he can do. And that kind of took him away from his game that got him into the NBA. With the Pacers, he can just play. He might foul out. He might make mistakes. He might miss a bunch of shots, but he's going to play. And when we talked to him here in Boston, he said that makes all the difference in the world. And he almost seemed to have a chip on his shoulder going against his old team, yelling at the crowd after making a, three in the corner. And he didn't have the best night that night. In fact, this is probably the matchup he's struggled in most since heading over to Indiana. But otherwise, he's been a consistent, I'd say even key to this Pacers start here.
Yeah, I mean, headed into this, especially when I thought Porzingis was going to be available, I made a video over at my Patreon previewing this game, and I thought, he could potentially be an X factor for the reason connecting another person that connects both of these teams, Malcolm Brogdon. Last week, the Pacers played the Blazers, and the Blazers put Malcolm Brogdon on Miles Turner from the tip of that game, and they put Ayton on Obi Toppin and just pretty much had Ayton standing in the paint. So if you can take Miles and Tyrese out of the pick and roll and be switching on some of those, they're the number 3 pick and roll combination in the NBA in terms of points per chance of how many points the Pacers score. So it did lead them to have to get to some different actions. And I kind of wondered, would Boston watch that game and maybe want to take a page from that, like I had already mentioned with Drew? And if they had, then having Aaron in the corner, because the reason you just said, he's shooting 44% on catch and shoot threes, it makes it harder for that big to roam off of him than what would be the case with Obi, although Obi just had a very good game doing that against Miami on Saturday when the Pacers still put up points without Tyrese. He made 4 threes and did a lot of positive things for them, also defensively against Jimmy Butler as well. But I thought Aaron could be a key there. And then also a key is he's the only person on this roster that you can say, hey, we're going to go out and have you go guard a center. We're going to have you go guard a 4. We're going to go put you on the other team's best wing assignment potentially. Like I said, he's not as versatile and good at those things as Drew is, but he does give the Pacers more flexibility in terms of what they want to do, because in that recent game against the Heat, Jalen Smith has had a really strong season for them, but he's out. So Isaiah Jackson had also been kind of dealing with an illness, so they didn't really play him. So they were playing lineups where Obi Toppin was the tallest player on the floor, but Aaron Nesmith was actually the center. He was the person guarding Kevin Love. He was the person using different coverages in that type of scheme. So it is possible that maybe if the Pacers do want to go really small in this matchup, that you guys might actually get to see some Aaron Nesmith at center minutes, because that's something they also did against Philadelphia against Embiid, where he was guarding and fronting Embiid because they had so many centers in foul trouble. So Aaron's been a really big bright spot to the season. He talked at Media Day that he expected coming into this year that he'd be playing more at the 3. So he did a lot of work to be able to put the ball on the floor above the break, be able to
and you see it. He's doing a good job with it.
Be able to be used more as a ghost screener. And as it turns out, they've still needed him at the 4 because Jarris Walker really wasn't ready and they don't have a lot of other options there. So that's mainly where he's been playing, but he's been really terrific attacking closeouts from the corner, even going to his left, which has been a weak spot for him in the past since he had come over from the Pacers. And then just the shot makes a really big difference when it's falling at a more increased clip. So Aaron's been really good for them. And like you said, yeah, I do think that he's had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I know he kept receipts from a Bleacher Report tweet where somebody had basically acted like the Celtics had gotten Malcolm for pocket change, and he kept an image of that and retweeted it after he had had some big games this year. So
I love that. Yeah, I love the start he's having here, and he's gonna have to guard Brown and Tatum, I think. He's the guy on that side that has the best chance of doing that, I think. And, with Horford out there, maybe if Porzingis was playing, you'd try to have him guard up on him just because of how big of a threat he is. But Horford's really only going to hurt you from the three-point line. So I think that's probably a guy you could stash a weaker defender on potentially here. And Nesmith's going to have to take on the big matchups here, which have been a little daunting for him. Now I'm looking at the numbers from the first game, which can be a little wonky. Tatum shot 2 or 3 against him, 4 points. I think Brown went 1 for 2. And he guarded both those guys about 20 possessions in those games. But just looking at the past games of him against the Celtics, it can look like, one of those practices in Boston in 2020 when he came in. Those guys just line him up. They know him. They look almost excited to attack him. And Tatum, one of his most vicious dunks of his career, came on Nesmith's head. So it's a daunting challenge for him. He's going to stand up for it. He's going to foul if he needs to here. He's going to be physical with those guys. And they're struggling a little bit right now. Tatum's turnover rate over his last 7 games here is 1-1. Assist turnover rate. The turnovers have gone way up for him. In fact, he had 7 last game before he got ejected. Brown, it's always a problem. He's going to give the ball up. It's just the weak part of his game at this point. I don't know if it's going to improve at any point here. So that's probably another thing that the Pacers can exploit here is turn the Celtics over. They've been in the bottom half of the league in that turnover rate, at least of late. And that can get them out on the run as they want to do here. So that's going to be the key for them.